Thank you. In the summer of 2012, I was doing a lot of things for love, mostly love I didn't have anymore. I had a best friend of 11 years, and right around May, she wrote me a 16-page single-spaced letter and said that she didn't want to speak to me anymore. It's not really a story, and so I don't know how to tell it, but it's important for you to know that. 16 pages, yeah. And so when this was all happening, I tried to figure out how to move through that. And so one of the things I planned, we were supposed to go to Fiona Apple together, and then we weren't going, and I said, oh, fuck, I'm going to Fiona Apple. So I figured out and I planned basically a month-long road trip, which I often did. I'm an academic, so I did, and I was single, living alone, so I planned that. And right at the beginning, so right before I sort of took off, I had gone down to Mankato to visit my best friend, and on the way back up, I have friends who live in Iowa, and they said, we're gonna come up and celebrate our anniversary at the horse track, because they like to celebrate it with the people that were at their weddings. It's really cool. They said, you should swing by, because you'll be there. I said, perfect. And they said, other people you know will be there, former students, and blah, blah. I said, great. So I swing in, we go to the horse track, and I get there, and their names are Dave and Nicole. And Nicole only gets drunk like once a year. And this is her day, and she's real drunk. And so I'm talking to a bunch of people, and I said, oh, who's all coming? They said, oh, Matthew Colley's going to be here soon. I said, oh, cool. Matthew Colley is the son of my current district chair at the time. This is all forensics talk. So he's this former competitor, and he had gone to undergrad where I went to graduate school. So he's a friend, a person, right? And he used to date this other friend of mine. They dated for like 6 years. They're not dating anymore, and I know that, whatever. So I'm talking to former students, and Nicole, who is drunk, keeps turning to me and saying these weird questions like, are you aggressive in bed? And then she'd go back to drinking and talking, and then she'd interrupt me, and she goes, how do you feel about cats? And then she'd go back to drinking, and then are you single? And finally I was like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? And she turned, this is the unedited version, internet. She turns to me and she says, Matthew needs to get laid. I think you'd be a suitable candidate. And I was like, okay. So Matthew shows up and he looks really handsome. He has been walking to work and he bought a new t-shirt. He looks great. And he doesn't know any of this, that all these people have been talking about this, and I'm just laughing. I think it's hilarious, because I have this personality and I bring it everywhere I go, so whatever, roll. So we're at the horse track, and I'm telling a story about how that when people meet me, it can be kind of overwhelming, and I have to be careful because not everybody wants me on top of them. And he, unfortunately, and he casually says, who wouldn't want you on top of them? And that's just his sense of humor. Is he flirting? No. He doesn't know what flirting is. So and my student, who knows what's going on, goes, and right away I say, oh, come on, Ari, you know you want me on top of you. Totally cover. She's walking with me later. She goes, that's not what I laughed about. I said, I know what you laughed about. You're terrible, right? Luckily, even you believe my cover. Great. So as we're hugging goodbye, I'm hugging Nicole goodbye, and they're all going to go eat at Perkins or something. And she says, my plan won't work if you leave. What do you think, we're going to have sex at Perkins? Like, yes, I'm leaving. Bye. It was nice seeing you all, right? So I go home, and I meant to email him and say, like, hey, it was great to see you. I forget to do that. So I'm on my month road trip, and he sends out this invite for all of us to go celebrate his birthday. They're going to go to a museum in the cities. He's living in St. Paul. I live up here in Fargo. And I said, I can't go. I'm going to be in Chicago at a 1-year-old's birthday party, but I'm coming up to see Fiona Apple the next week. How about I take you to dinner for your birthday? So I make the mistake of telling these mutual friends that I'm going to take him to dinner, and they are just beside themselves. You know, Nicole, who doesn't remember anything from that day, has now been told what she said, and she's excited, right? And her husband, Dave, who's one of Matthew's best friends, one of my good friends from graduate school, they're all very excited. And if you read the Facebook interchanges between Matthew and I, he's not flirting. He's being very logical. He's saying things like, well, you're more than welcome to stay at my house. I do have cats, but I don't live with anyone. And I'm like, is he flirting with me? Like, I don't live with anyone. He's like, nope, he's just being logical, right? And I always look like I'm flirting, so there's that. So I drive back up, and we go, and I get there. And we go to this Italian restaurant, and the table is really wide. And I'm being myself, because I'm always myself. I'm, hanging out with the waiter, and we're eating pasta, and we're having a great time. I'm kind of astounded at what a great time we're having. And we're talking about really deep things. We're talking about this relationship that I've separated. We're talking about his relationships and work and life, and it's really awesome. But the table's too wide. We're talking a lot about touch and intimacy, but I can't touch him because the table's very wide. So I get up to go to the bathroom, and I do the rub, I'm having a great time, right? And then as I come back, I'm thinking I wonder why there's no one here anymore. We'd been there 2.5 hours. Oh, I guess it's a really good time, okay? So he's living in downtown St. Paul, and we're gonna go for a walk afterwards. And he has worked with the legislature for 6 years at this point. So he's like, have you ever seen the memorial, the Vietnam Memorial? I said, no. And he's like, well, let's walk up there. So we're on our way up there, and I'm leading, even though I have no idea where I'm going. Yeah, such is life. So I'm walking, and I start to go the wrong way, and he's like, I said, oh, just grab me. Just do one of these, right? And so he grabs me, he says, like this? And I said, yeah. And he puts his fingers in mine and says, oh, like this? And I said, yeah. And then I'm like, oh. Right? In my late 20s, that doesn't happen, right? Okay, so I tell a story really quick so he doesn't notice we're holding hands. I blurt out something like, did you know that our friend Leah, we''t touch her husband enough, so he has a quota? So we walk up to the memorial, and we're having this great time, and I'm saying to him, I don't know any of these countries. He did extemp in college in speech. He knows all the countries on the floor of the memorial, and he said, okay, see if you can guess the differences, the Vietnam Memorial, that in Washington. So we walk in, and I love a good challenge, right? I'm an overachiever, so I'm like, the wall's different. And he's like, no, I'm like, there's a book. There's not a book in Washington. He's like, no. And he said, they're by order by year. He's like, no, these are not. I said, well, these are not your differences, but they are differences. So it's July, so I have my shoes off, and I'm in the water fixture, and he's standing up. If you've been there, right, there's these blocks that make wall stairs. And he's standing up on the lowest one. And when you're there, you're looking out, and the memorial is here, and the water fixture is here, and I'm dancing down here trying to figure it out. What is different? And I can't figure it out, and he's kind of working through it with me. And it finally hits me. The floor is these tiles, and some of them are dark. And if you stand where he's standing, and when it hits me, I run up by him, it's a map of Minnesota. And the dark tiles represent the people they lost in the war. And so we're standing, and we're looking at this map, and it's just amazing, right? Because we figured this out together. And now we start talking, and Matthew's a history major, so he's, in his low voice, he's saying all of these smart things to me. And I'm ready for my stand-up kiss, right? This has been going great. I'm ready to kiss now. And he's not thinking about kissing. He's thinking about history and maps and war and things. So he's talking, and I'm just trying to look really kissable, right? And I know better, because I know of him. I've known him for many years, not super well, but I know that he's not even on his range, and he's certainly not going to kiss me outside on our first. He doesn't even think this is a date, right? And I'm thinking, well, I am staying at his house. Maybe I'll work it through, but I don't have a plan, and I don't really want a plan. I don't really want to kiss him. I want it to happen, right? So, as we're sitting there, and people have filtered in and out, but it's 10:30 at night. This man, person of color, backpack, walks directly into the memorial, puts his hand up on the wall, and immediately we look at each other, and it's time to go. It's time to give space. We have taken our space here. It's time to give this person space. He clearly comes here a lot. There's meaning in this place. So I'm gathering my shoes. We're getting ready to go. He's on a flip phone. I remember that detail. And he's talking to somebody on his flip phone. And so as we're moving, he's already done with whatever he's doing, and he's coming back. And he looks kind of, movable, like he moves a lot. He's got this sort of wispy feeling about him. And as I'm gathering my shoes and getting ready to go, he turns to us and he says, "It's a beautiful night, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "It's a beautiful night." And then he looks at Matthew and he says, "Come on, man, kiss her." And Matthew goes, and I go, thank you, universe. Oh, thank you. And Matthew, I know Matthew's not going to kiss me. I just know he's not going to. The guy goes, come on, man. It's a beautiful night. Go ahead and kiss her. And Matthew just stares at him. Finally, the third time, come on, man. It's a beautiful night. Go ahead and kiss her. Matthew mumbles, maybe later. I'm rolling. I love this. So we walk him out and we talk about how we hope Obama is elected president. And he says this beautiful line to us, I died before you were born. And I remember being so grateful for him and not being able to express it. And we're not out of earshot when Matthew turns to me and says, I didn't like that very much. And I am cackling. I'm like, that was great. What do you mean you didn't like that? Come on. So it still takes me like another hour to get my stand-up kiss. We're in his kitchen and we're getting closer and closer. And finally he says, we're getting closer. He says very sort of softly to me, what are you thinking? And I know, and I should have said, I'm thinking you should take the advice of the man in the park. Wouldn't that have been a great story? I didn't say that. In my very Megan way, I said, what do you think I'm thinking? And then we kissed. And so now, about a year and a half after that, he moved up here, and I am the stepmom to his cats. And I know, I'm a cat stepmom. And now we go out, especially on our anniversary, and we always wait for whatever the universe is going to bring us.